Fly chick coming through. Nice to meet you. Glad you came too. Like you stand when you know you got moves. You spit game and you know you spit.
Hello and welcome back to the Fastlane Collective. Miami. We're in Miami. Unfortunately, we don't have Brianna with us. Of course, she misses an American Grand Prix, which seems to be like a running theme for Brianna. She's always away jet setting when there's literally a Grand Prix in her country. So we miss Brianna, but she is in Hawaii at the minute, which we're not jealous about at all. So yeah. Daniela, how are you doing? Miami, we're back. F1 Academy as well. Just how are you feeling?
Good. Unfortunately, I have missed a lot of this weekend. It was the Monaco E-Prix weekend for Formula E. It was a double header. It was crazy and chaotic and brilliant. But A, I'm tired. B, it meant that unfortunately I did miss a lot of the weekend because when when F1 was racing, I was in bed asleep because I then have to get up at like 4:15 in the morning the next day. So I have missed a lot. Yaz has tried to help me catch up. I've been watching a lot of highlight shows to try and understand what's going on. I did watch the race, even though at that point I was so beyond tired that I was like, no, I have to watch the race. I'm not missing it. But I did miss sprint. I did miss sprint qualifying. I did miss qualifying. I missed everything. Um, but I'm here now, and that's fine. Yaz, how are you? How's your week been?
I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm just off a night shift, so if anybody who's watching this recording sees the bags under my eyes, and probably Daniela's as well at this point, we are both very tired. But we're dedicated to the Fastlane Collective and giving you F1 and F1 Academy news. So I'm all good, ready to talk about this race, which was had plenty of action from the sprint weekend to qualifying to the weather. It was a lot, but just before we kind of delve into all things sprint and Miami related, let's get into the news section. So, to start this weekend, Max Verstappen missed Thursday's media, and that's because he's a dad. Congratulations, Max. And I was seeing on social media that that is probably like the most like Max Verstappen thing is like missing media because he always hates doing like media and talking to like the press. So that child is like, Dad, hold on, I've got you. You get to miss media because I'm here. So I know, congratulations to Max. Daniela, do you think this is going to be a son of his that is going to wait? It's a girl, isn't it? It's a girl. It's a girl. Do you think that his daughter will be an F1 Academy, be a fast racer?
Well, as everyone's been saying, with the genes that that baby has, who knows? It's looking quite likely, but I don't know if Max is going to be the kind of dad that forces his child to be into racing. I feel like Max is going to be more like, I'm going to let them do what they want to do. I think he'll support them no matter what. So if their baby girl wants to end up being a racing driver one day, they have very good genes, so there might be some high expectations. But I'd love to see her in F1 Academy if F1 Academy is still going then, and if she makes it there. But yeah, I'm like very happy for Max. I hope that like the baby as well. I hope that the whole family well, that everyone's okay, and you know everyone's obviously very happy about the baby. And it's just a shame that Max couldn't also get a win this weekend to top off what was probably his best weekend of his life. If he'd also got that win, obviously Thursday would have been the best day of his life with his daughter being born. But yeah, he's doing quite well, surprising, like coming back from that and just having to, be like, okay, I'm a dad now, but I also have to race a car really fast the same weekend. Must have been quite crazy turnaround of events, but he did it. So hats off to him, because I don't know if it like that was me and I had to then go and leave my new family and race. I don't know if I'd actually want to.
Yeah, I mean, stressful. I think we kind of forget sometimes like all the traveling and, not being around family, like that must weigh on these drivers a lot. Especially when you're going literally all around the world. I mean, I'm pretty sure Max and Kelly live in Monaco, so they go from Monaco then to Miami and then back, and then having a newborn on top of all that. I mean, stressful, and hats off to you, Max. I mean, I think it's why we see a lot of like drivers not really have kids because it's a big commitment, Formula One itself. Yeah, so congratulations, Max, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe get better wins this season to kind of be a bit less stressful on the family, and that is actually worth it to get maybe up in the championship standings. So moving on, there has been a rumour, as usual, in the F1 paddock, swirling around after this weekend. So next race we are in Imola, but the big rumour this season is that Alpine might switch Jack Doohan for Franco Colapinto, and apparently multiple news reports have been going around about this. Daniela, do you think this is a smart decision from Alpine? Again, we're still quite early in the season. I know we've already had a seat change with Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda. What do you think?
I don't know. I know that everyone loves Franco Colapinto and they want to see him in F1, and I completely get that. But I just feel like we need to give Jack a little bit more time. Um, we're not even that many races into the season. Is this the sixth race? Yeah, I think, yeah. So, we still have a lot of the championship left to go, and I just feel like it is unfair. And I feel like they should at least wait until the summer break, and even then I still feel like it's quite early. But I know that a lot of people are like, yeah, let's get in Franco. But we don't know how Franco's going to deal with that car either. Um, yeah, I feel like I have been kind of a big supporter of Jack Doohan, and I have been saying like let's not rush into things. We need to just give Jack his time. There was a lot of hate online. We mentioned it on the podcast at the start that like, but even before the season was starting, that Jack was getting all this hate saying he needs to immediately be replaced by Franco Colapinto before we'd even seen him in the car, which just isn't fair. And I know that he's not had the best season so far. He's had a few DNFs, which doesn't look good, but it's not like Pierre has been the most outstanding, incredible driver. He has had some good success so far this year, but not amazing. And if we're gonna say this, and I want to see more from Gasly, and make like show that how big that gap is. We have had, as I've said, some good results from Gasly, but I don't think it's enough to justify taking Jack out. And I don't think Jack has had that horrific a time. Like, I know that he's had some accidents that were kind of his fault, but then there's been some other like times when things haven't worked out for him that maybe wasn't just his fault. So I think they kind of should hold off at least for a few more races, but it wouldn't surprise me with the sport, as we say all the time, being cutthroat, that they'll replace him by Imola. But I guess we'll wait and see. Gaz, do you kind of agree with me, or are you more on this hype train to get Franco Colapinto in?
I know, I definitely agree with you, especially after this weekend. Jack Doohan outqualified Pierre Gasly. So, we're seeing at least a little bit of progress, maybe not as fast as Alpine wants, but I just think it's completely unfair, especially with the incident with Jack this race. Really wasn't his fault. He kind of had nowhere to go. It was more just Liam Lawson kind of just went too close in front of him, and Liam Lawson had a really, really, really not a good weekend. A lot of incidents from him, which we'll get into later on. But I just think it's completely unfair to be like, okay, we're not many races in, right, you're out. And, I see it so much that, yes, it's a cutthroat sport. We all know this. But I think, like, we need to at least try and help these rookies. Okay, what's going on? What are you struggling with in the car? And, like, give them time. Like, honestly, I don't even think sometimes a year is enough. Like, a season in the car can be enough time, especially if you're a rookie. Of course, I would love, like, rookies to be given chance after chance after chance, but I just think this time it's a bit too soon. So I'm really hoping that the rumour isn't true, although I love Franco Colapinto as well, so I really do want to see him in the sport at some point, but not quite yet. Give Jack his time. We shall see. So, moving on, Miami has been extended to 2041, which, surprise. I'm not the biggest fan of this track. I mentioned last podcast. Although we got great racing this weekend, 2041. I just keep thinking about that t-shirt that Sebastian Vettel had, which said like Miami underwater 2030. So we might not have a track in 2041 unless we're doing underwater racing. But I almost called you Brianna. Daniela, do you think that Miami should stay? Do you think we should cut it and maybe change it for like another race in, say, like Africa? Like, I've been wanting a race in Africa for so long because we race everywhere in the world but Africa. We did race in Africa in Morocco, which I am Moroccan, so back in way when Formula One started. But I'm getting off on a tangent here. Do you think that we should scrap Miami as America already have two races?
I think you called me Brianna because we are talking about America and we miss Brianna very much. Um, but I think that it was a shock to me to see that we were going to have Miami until 2041. That is mind blowing. Um, I'm gonna at that point basically be old, and that just scares me. I'm not really, but the thought of 2041 actually feels like a lifetime away. So it's scary to think it's gonna be on the calendar for that long. And like you, Yaz, I'm not a big fan of this track whatsoever. I haven't been since it was announced it was going to be a track, and still, like, even though, as you said, this weekend we had some great racing, it's still not made me like this track. I don't think anything could make me like this track. It was a massive meme when it came in. Do you remember the first year that it came in? All about the water and the fake water. I just was like, if it is already this much of a meme, why do we need it on the grid? And it's continued. And now it's going to continue into 2041. No, thank you. I'm not here for it. But I'm guessing some people are, and good for them. I hope they enjoy it because they've got to live up for it for a long time. But I think that we should not have three races in the States. I understand that the States is a big place, but so is Australia. And that doesn't have three, that has one. There are so many other places that deserve to have maybe more than one. And like you said, let's get over to Africa. I don't know if it's a budget thing. I don't know if it's because Africa don't want F1 to come over. I'm not sure what it is, but it would be nice to race there. I think there are some beautiful places. I have heard that there is a possible chance. I don't know if it was Cape Town or somewhere else. I can't remember off the top of my head. They're looking at, like, there is a track coming in Africa, I believe. I could be wrong on that, and maybe don't quote me on that, but I feel like I watched Tomo F1 talk about it, and he'd been to the same place where this track is going to be like a year ago. And so he's seen what the track, or like where the track is going to be, and it looks good from what he showed a photo of the track map, and it looked quite good. So we'll see. I hope that we get there because I think it would be nice to kind of be in every continent. Is that the right word? Yeah. So I would look forward to that, and I would like a new track that is actually interesting. I feel like the last few years, I said this, I think, in the last episode or the episode before, that I just don't like the new tracks we've had recently. They just have not been my favourite. I'm not really a fan of Jeddah, not really a fan of Miami, and I just want a new track that actually I'm excited for, and the racing is going to be good at. The track isn't the world's biggest meme. I want something that is exciting and refreshing, but also, like, encapsulates what F1 is, which is like wheel to wheel battles, like classic F1 is what I want, but with a new twist on it, but not like Miami or Jeddah. I want something new. So hopefully that's what we'll get with Africa, but we'll see. I don't know if there's any more news on that, but as soon as there is, I'll come back with an update on the news, I'm sure. But yeah, yes. I feel like you're feeling kind of the same thing. You want to stay away from the three races in the States. I do think you're right about with Sebastian Vettel's t-shirt. I am concerned that we're not going to have it for as long as 41, but we shall see.
We shall. Yeah, Miami. I'm again not the biggest fan. Not the biggest fan of fake water either. Yeah, I would really love to see another track in again Africa, as it's really the only continent we don't race in. And I mean, it's the World Championship. Why not go all over the world? So, continuing with racing, a different kind of race, um, a different kind of race this season, the Lego race. Uh, I absolutely love this, love this kind of like mini race that we had with the drivers. Again, if you didn't see and you're like, what the hell are you talking about, Yasmin? Um, Lego, they had real like life-size Lego F1 cars that were drivable that the drivers got into and had like a slow kind of mini race. And I've never seen the drivers, I think, so happy and laughing like before a race, because this was like during the race build up. Brianna, I just called you Brianna again. I swear. I'm literally looking at you and I said Brianna. Daniela, do you think we should have this every race, like a mini Lego race for the build up?
I liked that the drivers had so much fun with it, and it was nice to see them engage in a kind of a media-based activity where they were actually having fun. However, I think it might actually get a little bit tedious if we did it for every race, but I liked the concept. And I also think that those people who built those cars probably don't want to have to make them and transport them to every single race, especially after the drivers think it's a little bit of a game of bumper cars and crash into each other on purpose, and then all the Lego bricks go everywhere, and then they have to rebuild segments of the car. I think they might struggle. I think they might go, no, 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 we're not doing this. We've had enough. We built them once. We don't need to build them again. Okay. I think they said there was like 40,000 bricks for each car. And obviously there are 10 cars. And if those cars get destroyed, you've then got to remake them. And if you're sending them to every race, I just feel like in transit, they're not going to do very well. They're going to fall apart, and you're going to have to get to the track and then have to rebuild them. I don't feel like that's the vibe we want to go with. We've had our fun. I enjoyed it. It was nice to see the drivers smile. They obviously had a great time. I think they might have enjoyed it more than the actual race. Um, but let's think about that. It was a nice little like fun thing to do that was different. I think it was very clever. And I did enjoy it, but I think going to every race would be a little bit too much. But I'm glad they had fun.
I think it's great marketing from Lego. It's great. Like I have so many like little Lego sets of cars. Like I have the Senna F1 Lego set that I got for my birthday last year. And I just listen, I'm a big child at heart. I may be 21, almost 22, but I love my Lego guys. And I would definitely pay money to drive one of those. So again, moving on, that's all of the news. We will get finally into the race because again, we have a sprint to talk about. So going into the sprint, Miami was not our usual sunny Miami. It was pouring down with rain. I mean, it reminded me of the UK and Ireland. It was just like the rain was really, really bad and the weather was not what you would want for a sprint race. So for pole position for sprint, we had Kimi Antonelli. I mean, wow. Kimi has done so well, I think, so far in the season. And yes, it's early in the season, blah, 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 blah. But Kimi being on pole, again, I know he didn't win, but Daniela, like, this is really positive for Kimi.
Yeah, this is really, really big news. Like the youngest pole sitter for any format. Such an impressive turn from Kimi. Like being able to absolutely transform this car. Like we know that they've had success, Mercedes so far, but this really proved that they are capable of a lot this season. I think as the season progresses, we're going to expect a lot more from Mercedes. And specifically Kimi, he has come in with so much pressure on his shoulders. And I was concerned, I won't lie. I thought, have Mercedes made the right call bringing in Kimi Antonelli to effectively kind of replace Lewis Hamilton? What actually happened was that George has taken Lewis's car and Kimi has taken George's car. So it's not directly Kimi replacing Lewis, but Indirectly it is. And I feared that they hadn't made the right move. I thought this is a lot of pressure for a very, very young child. He was 18 when he came in. Like this concerns me. I was worried. But actually, Kimi has proven me completely wrong, and I am so happy for that. He has exceeded all my expectations for this season so far. I did not predict that he was going to get pole within the first 6 races. I didn't think it was going to happen this year. I thought it was going to take him at least a year to kind of adjust. I think I said this before, but I think that Kimi did have a slight upper hand here with the fact that he was able to be molded by Mercedes. He'd never worked with another F1 team before, so they can mold him into what they want. The problem with Lewis is that he's moved into a team when he's already has 7 world championships under his belt. He's only ever worked with Mercedes powertrain unit engines. He's only worked within, like, he's had most of his last few years with Mercedes, so he's going to struggle to adapt to a new team. Kimi's come in to a new team, a new championship, and can kind of be molded into what F1 and Mercedes want from him. So that, I feel like, puts him at a good advantage, which maybe is why he's had so much success. And I know that you're going to sit there and say, but what about all the other rookies? But the other rookies aren't in a team like Mercedes. Kimi is so backed by Toto that I think that we were already setting him up for success. I wouldn't say the same case would have been for Liam at Red Bull, and I think that is part of the problem. Mercedes knew who they wanted. They came in and they decided that they wanted Kimi immediately. Where at Red Bull, they were a little bit unsure about who they wanted. And I have a feeling that Alpine were the same. Do they go with Franco Colapinto, or do they go with Jack Doohan? And I feel like that's why now they're having these conversations. These conversations were being had before Jack even made his debut. But Mercedes was so secure on who they wanted that they've not had any doubts, and they have set up a really great working environment for Kimi. And I genuinely believe that if you are going to have success in this sport, you need to have a team that backs you, and that is what Kimi has got right now. He is very lucky to have that. His other rookie counterparts do not have the same environment that he has, and it's proven that it's working. He's obviously has a good dynamic with his teammate Russell. The pair of them are really pushing everything that they can out of that car. So I just am so happy to see that Kimi take pole. I know that he didn't win, and I won't lie, I wasn't expecting it. I thought, let's give him his chance on pole. Let's see how this goes. And I think that he did his best that he could in that time. We're 6 races in. We are so early in. I'm just very, very impressed by Kimi, if you can't already tell.
I am as well. Just the amount of pressure that he's had on his shoulders, like you mentioned, and to just come in and really not let that get to him, which I don't know how, because I feel like if I have like the tiny amount of pressure on me, I feel like I'm gonna just snap in half sometimes. And it's really impressive, just the mental toughness of Kimi. And then on top of all that, you've got like a Netflix documentary that's gonna be coming out about you, and he's so young, and I'm just so impressed. Yeah, Kimi, you're doing great, and I'm a fan. I'm a fan, and I can't wait to see not just where he ends up at the end of this season, but like his career within Formula One. He's definitely going to be in the future a world champion, I think. And I can't wait to see his reign at either Mercedes or wherever he goes, whatever the future holds for him. It's going to be really exciting. So, moving on to the sprint again. Again, really bad weather, and Charles did not start the sprint, as I think that it was like he was on intermediates and the weather was just like not intermediate weather, it was full wet weather. And I think it was a mixture of just he aquaplaned and also couldn't see and was straight into the wall. And just, I think for Ferrari's weekend, not a positive one, but again, we'll get more into that later. Daniela, do you kind of think that the morale at Ferrari this weekend has been a bit low? Like, even throughout like the team's like interviews, I just felt like they couldn't like really get their head around this track. Maybe the car wasn't suited for the track, and then bad luck with the weather.
I think they're just not where they want to be overall. And going into this weekend, I think they wanted to have a little bit more of a comeback, and that was not the case. I don't think that the Ferrari anyway is that suited to Miami. If we look back at previous years, they've not had like the strongest results that I think they wanted. So I think they kind of came in, wanting a bit more from this weekend. I think they've got a really fantastic lineup, but they just seem to not be getting the results that they want or need for the championship. And that's putting a lot of pressure on the team and the drivers. Did they make the right call with the tyres? No. Um, and that already kind of set them up to fail. If you're heading to the track and you're on intermediates and it's very clear that you should be in wet weather tyres, you probably know that there's going to be a little bit of aquaplaning, okay? If we would go back to when Lando was going to win his first race in, I want to say it was Hungary 2022? I can't remember when it was. Sometime around there. Could have been 23. Might have been 23 actually. He did the same call where he aquaplaned. He was not on the right tyres. It was wet weather. He lost out. And if you're heading to the grid and you kind of there and you're like, wow, okay, this weather's difficult, you're going to sit there and instantly regret your decision. He then crashed, and I believe he did not start the sprint. Am I correct in that, Yaz?
Yes, you are correct.
So that meant that they've then lost out on more potential points that they could have had this season. They've already had 2 disqualifications this year. That is not what they want or need. So I can imagine morale was pretty low in that Ferrari garage, and they were probably just hoping to get through into qualifying and hope that they were going to have a decent qualifying and that the weather was going to be in their favour. And then that just led on to the race where, again, we'll come on to this later, but more could have been done for them and from their drivers and from the team. So I think that then after sprint, that's it. They just had enough.
Yeah, it was hard to watch, especially when I could just see Charles's car just heading straight, beelining for the wall. I was like, no. Painful. But another painful scenario. Max Verstappen, again, new dad, new purpose in life. Yeah, not the best for him. 10-second time penalty for an unsafe release, pushing him down to P17. Again, not his fault, but that was another hard thing to watch. Just him coming in to the end of Kimi Antonelli, and then Kimi couldn't pit either because he had to swerve. And then on top of all that, you had him kind of, it looked at least, he was like over the starting line, although Daniela informed me that Martin Brundle did say that he was actually on the starting line, so he wouldn't have got a penalty. And then we also had Fernando Alonso into the wall with Liam Lawson. Again, Liam Lawson was another driver that just seemed to want to hit everyone. Get out of my way, I'm Liam Lawson, basically. Just really overall, the sprint was just hectic. We had the red flag the sprint before we even started. Kimi was pushed off the track in lap 1, and then Sainz had a puncture. So really no luck at all for these drivers for the sprint. And going into the race, I was kind of worrying that we were going to have a lot more of the same things. Like, is any driver going to finish? Overall, Daniela, did you think the sprint was, even though very chaotic, a lot of stop and starting and virtual safety car, did you think it was entertaining, or does that kind of irritate you when there's a lot of instance? Because I know some people would rather just see overtaking and not we're stopping and starting, someone's crashed, someone hasn't.
I think I do prefer when we have more overtakes, but I do think sometimes it is a little bit entertaining when you have such a chaotic race where everything goes wrong. You're like, how the hell did that all just happen? And I think that's how I feel about this weekend. It's like so many different things happened that you're like, did that really all just happen in one sprint? Like, it's not even a full race, it's a sprint. So much chaos. It all kind of started from Charles Leclerc. and you just didn't really know what direction this whole sprint was going to head into. As I haven't watched the sprint, I do have some questions for you, Yaz. Did Max and the Kimi incident, did that prevent Kimi from a chance of getting a podium, or was he already kind of dropped back by that point?
I think it definitely influenced him not getting up there at least. Especially, he was on old tires and he wanted, and there was a safety car, and he was like, right, get in there, get a cheap pit stop. I just think he lost time in those pits as well, and did not even get the reward of getting fresh tires. It definitely influenced his result, unfortunately. But that's just the sport, isn't it? Like, bad luck just sometimes falls into a driver's laps, and it's really unfortunate, especially for how well Kimi did. So it was painful to watch.
So, from my understanding, actually, the strategy was there. It was just the execution of Max's unsafe release that led to kind of Kimi having that bit more of a downfall, not even getting to pit. So, unfortunate circumstances for him. And I think Max probably left the sprint feeling also rather annoyed, finishing in P17, completely out of the points. If he wants to stay in that battle for the championship, he needs every point he can get. There's quite a big gap now between Max in P3 and Oscar in P1. And so if he wants to be a 5-time world champion, he then needs to be capitalizing on every single moment of every race, whether it's sprint or not. And right now he's not doing that. And that was evident this weekend in his sprint result and in race result.
I kind of have a separate question to ask you that's popped in my head. Do you think, Max has always said that he's not, he's going to get world championships and then retire and, live his life. Basically, he's not going to be a Lewis Hamilton that's going to be in the sport till he's like in his 40s, or Fernando Alonso. Do you think if, say, this year and next year, the Red Bull car isn't there and, he has a daughter now, do you think he will be like, well, I've got my world championships, I've got more than one, I'm going to retire?
I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this season he would be having those thoughts on whether or not he will actually return for next season. I think it really depends on how this championship goes. I know we are only 6 races in, and I know that I keep saying that, but that means that the championship could change and Max could take the win. He might get by the end of the season and go, I've won 5 championships. I now have a family. I'm going to go. Or he might go, I haven't won the championship. I'm going to keep going until I get that 5th. But I also feel like that is just not Max's mentality. I have a feeling that this could be his final season, regardless of whether or not he wins the championship. He's got his world championships. He's got 4 of them. He's pretty happy. He's never had that mentality of like, I want to break records. He just wants to win, which I feel like is what most drivers want to do. There are some drivers who want to break records. I feel like Lewis Hamilton is one of them. That's probably why he's still racing. He's still chasing that 8th world championship. He wants to break that record. But that isn't what Max is thinking about. Max just wants to drive and win races. And if that leads him to championships and he's happy, every driver wants to get at least one world championship. If they didn't, they're in the wrong sport. And so now he's done that and he's achieved that. I think he's reached that point of like, well, I kind of got what I came for. So there's a new aspect of my life that's kicking off. I think I want to focus on that. And I feel like that's in some ways how Sebastian Vettel felt. He was kind of like, why am I doing this? Like I have family at home, I have children at home who want my attention, and I'm racing every single weekend. And like Seb said this weekend, he's not going to return to F1 despite the rumours. His kids don't want him to. His kids want him at home. And I think that's very valid that, if you have a family at home, you want to spend time with them. If you're racing at 24 different races a year, so 24 weekends a year, you're not going to be home much. A lot of those days are spent traveling. And I think that it is unfair to put that onto your family. So I can see if I would not be surprised if Max decides to leave at the end of this season. And I know that's probably a really controversial opinion, and Max might prove me wrong, but genuinely that's just what I believe, whether he wins that championship or not.
I agree, and I think it'll be actually quite refreshing to see a young driver, he's done well and, be able to be like, I've done what I've came here for. Because we've also talked about how there's some drivers overstaying their welcome. Now, I love Fernando Alonso, but when you're not getting the results, like what are you staying there for? You've had a successful career, you have world championships. When is the cutoff point? When do we go, you know what? It's time for me to live my life outside of Formula One. And I remember even Daniel Ricciardo talking about that. It's hard to like let go. And again, Daniel Ricciardo is kind of a different situation because he didn't have those world championships. But when do we go, you know what, enough's enough? I need to move on in a way. Um,
I do think things are a little bit different for Fernando Alonso because he doesn't have that family aspect that a lot of these other drivers have. He doesn't have that like that other life, I guess. Obviously, it's going to have a life outside of racing, but not to the extent that these other drivers have. And he doesn't have those other like potential career paths like Lewis Hamilton has or Charles Leclerc has. So like if he doesn't have F1, he might kind of feel like, well, what do I have? And maybe that's something that he needs to kind of assess and see where he can get fulfillment in other aspects of his life. But I feel like he right now, well, he doesn't. I don't know if he's in a relationship, but he doesn't have children. He might not. He's not settled down, and I feel he's spoken about this before about that. Like, does he kind of regret not having kids and like not having that life, and does F1 kind of take over everything? And to an extent, I think it does because Max Verstappen is now the second dad on this year's grid, and I think that says a lot about parenthood in F1 and how challenging it is. And I've been thinking about my life and like how will my life look working in motorsport in the future? Like, would I be able to settle down and have children when so much of my life is going to be taking up traveling the world? And I'm not even a driver, so it must impact these drivers a lot. So I think that with Fernando Alonso, his case is that he doesn't have those same responsibilities and same aspects of his life that like Max and Hulkenberg do or Sebastian Vettel does. So I think he continues racing just because that's the fulfillment that he gets, rather than it being like to win championships and to win races. He's doing it because he loves doing it, and he doesn't have anyone else waiting for him.
yeah, Formula One, work-life balance, never heard of it. um, it's pretty impossible. Again, we're all over the world, so it's not a surprise that a lot of these drivers don't have that like family aspect, which is sad in a way. But moving on to the actual race, because again, we've got lots to talk about. 275,000 people in attendance, so it was a jam-packed race. Again, Formula One in America just keeps getting bigger and bigger, I feel like, which is why we have three races. But lap one was chaos, as usual. These cars around this tiny track gives me anxiety. Like, oh, just how big they are. I keep forgetting how big the cars are until we go to like a street style circuit. And Miami, especially in some of those corners, I hold my breath. So Max held the lead, and Norris was kind of forced off the track by Max. Went from P2 down 4 places in the P6. Daniela, thoughts on this incident? Again, race control, didn't see it, just saw it as a lap one incident, no penalty. But do you think there should have been something, even a small 5 second penalty for Max?
I do think that Max was in the wrong in that moment. And I'm not doing this because of British bias, okay? If you know me, you know I'm not actually that big of a Lando Norris fan, so I'm not going to be prioritising Lando. But I do genuinely believe that that was not just a lap one incident. I think that Max should have had a penalty. But despite that, I do like looking back at the race and looking at the result. Obviously, Max finished behind Oscar and Lando. So realistically, like he already kind of, despite not being penalised, actually already was affected by it anyway because he didn't win. or wasn't on the podium and finished behind the McLarens. So that makes me go, okay, like I can, like, it's not that I can get that why he didn't get a penalty, but I can accept that he didn't get a penalty because he did finish behind them. But in my opinion, he did deserve a penalty. Yes, do you feel the same thing? Like, do you think he deserved a penalty, but you're kind of okay with it because he didn't finish ahead of the
Yeah,
McLarens?
yeah, I'm kind of mixed because obviously looking at the incident, Lando was ahead in the apex. Um, and I get that like race control, they're more lenient with like first lap, especially like first corner incidents, because everyone's jumbled up together, and it is just chaos. So that's why I'm kind of on that like seesaw of yeah, Max was in the wrong, Lando was ahead, but again it was a lap one incident. So I'm kind of like in the middle of. I think he should have at least gotten maybe a 5 second penalty, nothing like a 10 or 20 second, but like something small like a 5 second penalty. I think would have been valid. Again, because he did push him off the track. So Max fans, don't come for me. I actually love Max. So before you start, shush. Okay, quiet. Speaking about the McLarens, they had some pace this weekend. I mean, just incredible. The McLarens really are the team to beat this season. And Oscar overtook Max in like a really bold move. Oscar had his head down, and as we know, he won. Hell yes. Again, that's my. I will be biased when it comes to Oscar Piastri. Okay, let it slide. Daniela, do you think McLaren are basically just like ahead of everyone again? Early in the season, upgrades are going to be coming, but do you think they're going to be hard to catch?
I think they are kind of proving that they are the ones to beat. They are very far ahead. So I think I want to say that at the end of the race, Oscar was still 4 seconds ahead of Lando. Lando was like was it over 30 seconds? I want to say like 32 or 35 is like ringing in my head of George. And I was just like, how is that possible? Like, how are you that far ahead? And it just takes me back to last years and the whole like Max and the Red Bull and us being like, how is he ahead of everyone? He's in a rocket ship. But I feel like no one's saying that about McLaren. No one's saying McLaren's are rocket ships. So I do genuinely think that their car is phenomenal and they're very lucky to have that car. But I also think that it's the lineup. Oscar, we know, is brilliant. So has Lando's really proven himself this year as well. He obviously was in the fight for the championship last year. They're both in the fight for the championship this year. I think that they are doing a fantastic job and they've had a really great start to the season. They've had a couple of 1-2s now, which, they're going to be very happy with. They're looking very strong at the Constructors' Championship. Oscar is out there leading the Drivers' Championship. He is now 16 points ahead of Lando. They are both looking very strong and arguably have one of the best lineups on the grid. And I think that it's proving difficult for Max. This is the first real challenge he has had in a while. I know that he had some challenges against Lando last year, but I think genuinely this year he is starting to really see how fast that McLaren is, but also what it was like for everyone else when he was constantly winning. I think he's now getting it. The difference with him was that he didn't have a teammate to back him up in the same way that Oscar and Lando have each other and are very competitive with one another. He didn't have that. It was all him to play for. So now it's all of him to play for against both the McLarens. So I would be a little concerned if I was Max. I'd be like, okay, what can I be doing here to catch them up? Same with George. I think he wants to be in that championship battle. What can he be doing? Because, being over 30 seconds away from the top two is actually quite scary. I would be scared. I'd be like, what am I doing wrong and what are they doing right? Is it just the car or is there something else? And I do think that at the moment McLaren are in a league of their own. Maybe that will change in 2026 when the regulations change. Who knows? I'd be interested to see how McLaren got to this point. If we look back, I want to say 2023 season, the start of that year, Oscar Piastri just joined McLaren, and first few races of the season, they were as slow as a tractor. We all made those jokes. It all became a meme. And now, 2 years later, they are ahead of the game. They're ahead of everyone else and are leading the championship as if they're in a race of their own. What has happened and what has changed in the development at McLaren? I'm very intrigued to know. I want to understand how they've gotten to the point they have now, because other teams aren't doing that. I know that Red Bull kind of had done that in the past, but all these other teams are not in the same league that McLaren are in, and I wonder why that is.
It's crazy what a couple of years can do, because I'm right with you, Daniela. Like, how have they just managed to turn it around? And I know we've had a big regulation change as well, but I'm just like, wow, I'm just so impressed. But with Lando and Oscar being so ahead of everyone, we're definitely gonna come into a lot of more issues with them butting heads, especially with Lando, who's been so dedicated to the team for so long, and now Oscar is ahead of Lando, ahead in the championship standings. Do you think we're going to get a bit more, I don't know, racetrack incidents, or do you think they'll both be able to keep it quite professional?
I think this has been kind of a big topic in the media and here on our podcast as well. I do think, every driver wants to win and every driver wants to beat their teammate. We know it's their biggest rival. So I think that both of them will do what they can to win. I think the fact that Oscar is a bit more level-headed means that he won't make silly mistakes in the way that Lando will, because Lando lets the pressure get to him a little bit. And I think that one good thing about Lando is he is that little bit more sensitive, that he can kind of see different aspects and maybe won't push things in the way that other drivers might. Like, Lando might not go for a gap that genuinely isn't there when another driver might. And I think that says a lot about Lando's character. But I think that Oscar does have the sensibility, and he's very like calm and chilled in his mind. You never hear him kind of raise his voice on team radio. You never hear panic in his voice. And I think that is really crucial right now to being the best and strongest driver, because he's not making mistakes. When he does, it's rare. Australia, for example, that was a rare move from Oscar. We don't see him making these mistakes all the time. And I genuinely think that if they have a battle and things go wrong, it might be because of Lando's like hot-headedness and like eager to beat Oscar. Now, obviously, Oscar wants to beat Lando as well, but I feel like Lando very much shows that he wants to beat Oscar. Oscar does it in a more subtle way, and I think that is what is keeping him in the lead of the championship so far. And I think that Lando needs to be careful, because if things go the wrong way, then that's not going to make him look desirable by other teams if he then decides to leave. So I think that, we need Lando to kind of almost reach a similar level to Oscar in terms of being calm in that car. I don't think he will, because he's not the same type of person as Oscar, and I think Oscar's quite different from the rest of the grid in that sense. But I do fear that as we get more into the season, the championship is going to get tighter. They are going to knock heads a little bit, but I don't want to blame Lando, but I feel like if there are going to be mistakes, it will come from Lando's part.
Watch this space. I think this year can be quite explosive between those two, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see it. I love a team rivalry, so we shall see. Moving on, incidents. We had many incidents with bad weather, wet track. We were bound to get at least something. So Jack Dane again mentioned that earlier in the podcast about possibly being replaced because of a bad result, and he did not finish this race, unfortunately. He had an incident which personally I think it wasn't his fault, as again Liam kind of just came out in front of him. So really, really unfortunate for Jack. On top of this, Liam Lawson had a collision. Again, this was just, I think Liam Lawson just was not having a great weekend. Daniela, are you a bit worried about Liam? Because I kind of was this race. Again, from just this whole season so far, I've just felt bad for him. From not doing well in the Red Bull, struggling within that car, to then being demoted, back to racing bulls, and then not doing the best in that lovely pink livery. What are your thoughts? I kind of want to skip this one because I just feel so bad for him.
I know you want to skip it, but I've been waiting to talk about this. Okay, for context, used to be a hardcore Liam Lawson fan. Have been for a while. Did you
Used
not know
to?
this, Jess? Yeah, used to is the key word here. I was backing Liam Lawson so hard. I wanted him in F1 so badly. And then he had a really great few 11 races. And I was like, yeah, okay, like this kid is good. I told you all. I know I was right. He is good. This season, Liam, everyone said when you get back into that V carb, all will be well. All will be well. And you know what? I believed everyone. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I will, I obviously didn't want Liam necessarily to switch. I thought it was too early. But I was like, okay, if he's going to do better in the V carb, I'll just run with it. They put him in the V carb. Everyone's like, he's gonna be at the top. Like he's gonna be doing so well in that V carb. He's gonna push to the absolute limit. It's gonna be great. No. Sadness, disappointment. I am heartbroken by Liam Lawson because I was expecting a whole lot more than what he has given. Isaac Hadjar, on the other hand, doing brilliantly. And I have switched and I'm now an Isaac Hadjar fan. I'm sorry, Liam. Unless you buck up your ideas, because it actually is painful to watch now. I loved you so much in F2. You were so brilliant. And when you came into F1, you were brilliant. And then you've had your full-time seat and everything's gone wrong. So Liam, what is going on? Because I'm concerned, okay? I'm worried for your mental well-being. I'm worried for your driving and for your seat in the future. What is going on? Let's sort this out. We're not in bumper cars. We don't need to crash into everyone. That's not the goal of the game. We want points. We don't want constant DNFs. I know you have it in you, okay? You've done one of my all-time favourite overtakes. Let's bring it back. Thank you for listening, Liam. I know you're not listening, but I'm going to pretend that you are because I need you to listen.
Liam, please listen to Daniela. I think it's kind of the reason we're getting these incidents and like these silly, like, whoa, like just slow down. I think he's trying to prove himself that that was a mistake kicking me out of the Red Bull. And I would feel the same way. I'd be like, you've kicked me out of the Red Bull, you haven't given me a chance. I'm going to show you that it was a huge mistake. But I think he's more proving that it was a mistake, and he needs to just like have a minute to sit back and go, right, I just need to get points. Because when you're in a team like the V-Carb, it's not, top finishes, it's points. It's points to get those standings. So I'm just a bit like, Liam, listen to us. I know we are racing experts here at the Fast Lane Collective, so just, listening to us. Moving on to another incident. Last incident. Well, not an incident. Ollie Behrman. I felt so bad for Ollie. Had a mechanical difficulty, and it was like, I think his engine literally just cut out, and like a puff of smoke, and that was his race finished, unfortunately. And yeah, it was painful to watch, especially when, you had Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari behind, like, and Ollie, and, well, it was actually Esteban Ocon in the Haas again. If you don't know Haas, they use Ferrari, is it the power unit? I'm pretty sure it's Ferrari's power unit. And the Haas and the Ferrari were literally, like, having a whole battle themselves, which was, I think, Ferrari should be a bit concerned about that. And talking about Ferrari, I want to just talk about the whole Charles Leclerc fucking Ferrari. I can't even get my words out, and I'm gonna undye my hair red because I'm so pissed off. Miscommunication? Everything was just a mess. A mess. And Lewis Hamilton with the sass. I mean, let me just break down if you're a bit confused from why I'm a bit, just a tad bit agitated. Miscommunication was happening in Ferrari with the radios. Hamilton was wanting to swap positions with Charles to get ahead of Charles. Charles then was told, yes, let Hamilton pass. Leclerc moved. Hamilton wasn't told this was happening. So they were losing time because they were just kind of, Hamilton was sitting going, I don't know what's going on, and the confusion. And Daniela, you take it from here because I'm going to crash out right now. Thoughts, opinions? Do you feel my frustration as well?
Yes, I will take over because a bit like Ollie Behrman, I think your engine might explode. So what we're going to do, Ferrari, this was not it. Communication is key to Formula One and to life. This was embarrassing on your part, I'm not going to lie. I watched it and I cringed. And I was like, okay, I can see where Lewis is coming from. He is proving that he's faster. I could see that it was a good idea to swap the cars. I feel like anyone could see that. But then, again, as you said, miscommunication. They told Charles, didn't tell Hamilton. Chaos, right? All they wanted was, I believe it was Kimi that was ahead. They wanted to catch Kimi. And I genuinely believe that Lewis could have done that. But the team strategy is, I understand that Charles Leclerc has been a loyal member of that Ferrari team. And I understand that you want to prioritise Charles, but if you're going to do that, then you need to think about how this is going to play out, because if you're going to keep Lewis behind, you need to make that clear. But if you're also going to swap Lewis, you need to make that clear. None of this was clear to anybody, not the drivers, not to us. No one knew what was going on, and I genuinely think that left them further down the grid than they could have been. I think that both of them could have gained more points if things had been made clearer. It took Lewis 3 laps before he was allowed to swap with Charles. They then lost time. They could have caught Kimi, and they didn't, and that was disappointing. They could have done so much more if Lewis had been listened to from the get-go. I understand they didn't want to switch the drivers. They really care about Charles. I get that, okay? And Charles was doing very well as well. Like, it's not just Lewis. But they need to be clear with their team orders, and they need to have these discussions before the races. If they know that they will want to switch a driver at some point in the race, and that this could be a possibility before a race starts, they need to have this conversation. Are they going to switch the driver? Who's going to be the favourable for this race? Is it going to be the faster driver or not? Because it's embarrassing to witness. And if they want to do well in this year's championship, they really need to back up their ideas. They have got a 7-time world champion on their team who has so far been struggling a little bit with adjusting to a new team, but has also proven that he is a 7-time world champion. He's won a sprint race this year so far. You have Charles Leclerc, a very, very good driver, highly recognised, very lovable. Everyone enjoys seeing Charles on the grid and seeing him do well. He definitely proved himself last year with some fantastic wins in Monaco and Monza. You have a brilliant lineup. Utilise them. Come up with a decent strategy. We're sick of the clown strategy, the clown Ferrari that goes on. We're fed up now. And like I said, she's going to dye her hair red because we're fed up. Okay? And I know who else will be fed up. Brianna. She's a massive Charles Leclerc fan and should have been disappointed of how this weekend went for them. As we'd already said, the morale was low, and I think this just pushed it further down.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad Brianna isn't on this podcast because I don't want to see her pain. And, you know, me, as usual, can't hold my emotions in from how much Ferrari annoy me. Because we've had this for so many years. Like you were mentioning, Daniela, the Ferrari clown meme. I mean, people even for Halloween for the past couple of years have been dressing up as like Ferrari pit crew with like the clown hat on and the Ferrari gear. And I just don't understand why we still struggle with this communication. Every time I see a Ferrari radio, I get anxious. I get scared. Because what are they going to say? What's the strategy going to be? Plan 75 DC, whatever. I'm just annoyed. And you can definitely tell that Hamilton is as well. Because he's probably not used to this. He's not used to just like not be able to just communicate. And even Charles said on the radio, you know, we're going to talk about this after the race. But how many more times do we have to talk about small little things like this where, you know, we've got Hamilton and Leclerc voicing basically strategy calls over the radio. Like, that shouldn't be their job. Their job should just be focus what's ahead and drive. It shouldn't be, okay, we need to do this, this and that. Because that's what the pit wall are getting paid for. God.
If we're going to hear the words, can we talk about this after the race, or we're going to talk about this after the race, then why are we constantly still having to hear those words? Like, if they're being said once, okay, after the race we're going to talk about these issues, then why are they still reappearing? I don't get it, Ferrari. And also at this point, the amount of times that's been said on the team radio, I could be, if I got pound for every time, I'd be able to afford my own racing team with better communication and strategy choices. So Ferrari, watch out, because otherwise there's going to be a new team on the grid. That won't be Cadillac, it'll be me.
So that is all for today. Again, ending it on a bit of a sour note. Thank you so much for listening. Again, give us a like, a review. We would love your feedback. Follow us and subscribe. We're on YouTube as well, on Spotify. And again, thank you so much for giving us your time, and we will see you in the fast lane.
Hello, fly chick coming through. Nice to meet you, glad you came too. Like you said when you know you got